Hey out there, YouTube land, is Kuda Slayer, aka Daytime Number the Beast once again. It's been a couple of months since I last did a video for this project. Um, Unfortunately, as usual, I got sidelined by several things that kind of all hit me at the same time, and unfortunately, um, I wasn't able to give the proper attention that this project deserved, and as a result, it suffered and not being able to update it for at least a couple of months. So to those who've been following all this time, I apologize. I'm not going to give up on this project just yet. Um, and even though as I'm recording this around the corner is Thanksgiving and the rest of the holidays. Um, but I'm going to continue to try to get back into swing things, be a little more regular with the updating of this. Anyway, as you can't quite tell already, today I'm going to be talking about Pacific Rim as the franchise. If you have not heard of this movie for some whatever reason, and you happen to be a mecha fan, I'll say shame on you. Otherwise, this is a rather good movie franchise for for a relatively simple genre or subject matter as it is. It originally came out the first movie came out in 2013, and the second movie, Uprising, came out in 2018. There's been at least 2 or 3 comic series, and then there's currently a Pacific Rim Into the Black that's playing on Netflix right now, and I believe there's another series to follow pretty soon. So it doesn't look like it's be slowing down anytime soon. It's held up for at least the last 8 years or so. Basically, the plot summary is Earth is being invaded by this race of interdimensional aliens that open a rift at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, right along the tectonic plates. And through this rift, they send their monsters up to attack the surface world and try to wipe us humans out. They've been doing it mostly for most of the plot. They send the monsters out one at a time, kind of over spaced out either weeks or days apart from each other. One of the big plot tension points in the first movie is they keep talking about the rate of monsters coming out being more regular, unlike this video series, and so the humans are having less and less time to react to these invasions. And so, but during this time, they developed these new weapons called Jaegers, with these giant machines to combat the monsters. And there's like other details, like the monsters kind of release this poison that kind of pollutes the environment. As they stomp about, and a lot of little details, like kind of interesting, like the Miracle Mile they refer to as kind of a defense line that the robots try to maintain when there's an invasion of any country's shore. Overall, I mean, it's you have your typical interpersonal drama, then the hero's journey going on in the background as well. But for the most part, it's a good show, series. I've not really had a bad experience watching any of the movies, or I had not really read the comics. I did mention there's a wiki available as well, but it seems to be fairly solid. I hope to see more of it coming soon. And let's see. Balance-wise, if I was going to design, kind of stat everything out myself, I would kind of pick as usual, pick a certain level of kind of typical average servo level I would go for building everything, and kind of keep the Jaegers at a kind of a lower level, and either build the kaiju at either kind of a higher servo level, and or even have all the servos be reinforced to go with that, to kind of make them more damaging, because the Jaegers are kind of kind of depicted as being a lot faster and more nimble than the monsters, and but they're, once they start taking damage, they kind of go down pretty quickly. So I was kind of doing that. And also, I would kind of have to wonder where I really want to bring in like regeneration or even the techno-organic effects for the kaiju. Would I want to give that kind of more of a challenge to the players? For the most part, the kaiju will have melee weapons, of course. Not sure so much about how much armor I would give them. Especially I was going to give them reinforced servos just to have it be more tanky like that. Ranged weapons I would be very restrictive on for the especially the kaiju, unless there's a special case. As spoiler, in the first movie, there's a point where the humans are surprised by a ranged weapon by the kaiju. The Jaegers, the hero mechs, that's kind of up to debate, because some of them, the Jaegers, seem a little unbalanced when it comes to what their weapons layout are. Most of them are built kind of acting like a like you would build a wrestler, and not too many of them would have ranged weapons. Although Gypsy Danger, the main kind of character mech, has a lovely. Sorry about that. Gypsy Danger kind of is interesting in that it's supposedly an obsolete model that got kind of upgraded a little in the movie. It has kind of a more balanced weapons loadout compared to others, like the most sophisticated and hot stuff unit going on right now is the Eureka, which is has a kind of a series of cannons in his chest that he can deploy. I'm not exactly sure how I would, bounce out if it's more, make them all unique or make them all equal in some way. I kind of try to maybe go from being more unique with compared to each other than having all the same point values. If just kind of give what you want your players to, what kind of challenge they want them to have. It's that's probably most of the details of what I'm covering that. But the kind of the one sticking point that stands out for Pacific Rim is the technology that supposedly makes the giant robots possible, and I find it kind of interesting for discussion, because it's kind of one of those things that would make anybody get caught up on trying to hammer rules out for. Like in a previous videos, I always talk about trying to keep things simple, and instead of don't reinvent the wheel, don't make things cumbersome on you. It's like, well, basically the mechs are made possible by what's referred to as drift technology, which is kind of a technological version of a mind meld from Star Trek, where there are 2 or 3 pilots in each unit that pilot the machine together as one. Initially, when the first Jaegers were designed, they found the pilots had direct neural interfaces with them, and the workload and basically the drain from just trying to control these things found one pilot was too much, where it caused injury and even death for the pilot. So they decided to get 2 pilots in there and try to share the workload between 2. But to make that happen, the 2 pilots have to be able to be synchronized and think together as a team. When you watch the movie, it kind of looks like a cross between kind of motion control, reflex control, and a neural interface kind of controls. So it's kind of a combination of things. You would kind of might get confused of which way you want to go. My interpretation would be is I would try to go for the normal thought control system. And kind of, not to just toot my own horn, I would also kind of suggest maybe the Mens system I have in my NOAA campaign. I will have a link down below for that as well. If you want to look at that, it gives you a little bit more options than the standard thought control. But basically, I'm sorry, I kind of lost my place. But basically, like I said, drifting is kind of like a mind meld sort of setup, where the two pilots synchronize together, and supposing that both brains work as if they were one pair, or as one. For control wise, I would let's see. Yeah. Minor details in the background information on drifting. The pilot on the right is normally the dominant one, and while the one on the left is secondary. Don't know if you want to keep that as consideration when you design your system or game. Some people may have a problem with that, but I would. I had kind of wondered about introducing a drift stat, kind of similar to how they talk about size stats and such. I don't know if this would be something, if you're going to run a game like this, you would want to consider. My kind of thinking is this stat would represent a percentile. For every point is 10% that a person can be compatible with somebody else, and the two pilots that you would have would be required to have at least 2 drift stats that add together as up to 10, because the percentile of that stat represents would be how much of their own personal mental stats they would contribute to the resulting combined mind. Say, like, if someone had like a drift stat of 6, that would be their stats would be they would contribute at least 60% of their stats to the new mind when it's functioning. I haven't quite decided how I feel about 2 pilots that have both a drift stat of 6. Would I want to have the resulting mind be 120% together, or whatever? That's just kind of what I would do. The body type, I would keep that as a physical stat separate from the piloting. What's considered to be kept as piloting. But the new mind would have a new stability stat instead. Education, intelligence and education, that's kind of I'm wondering how I would want to handle that, even considering skills. If I would want, that 60%, for as an example I gave before, if I want, the characters contribute just 60% for skills instead of just stats or whatever. And then the other kind of sticking point about drifting is when there's a condition where they talk about in the franchise where a pilot might get distracted from the other, or something may happen when they're rendered unconscious or whatever, and when they wake up, they get locked on to a memory or some other thought that enters their mind at the time, and they get caught up on it. They relive the moment so that they cannot proceed as it's the other half of the machine's piloting mind, or whatever you want to call it. I just want to call it hive mind at this point. How I would want to handle that. What I want to do it when when there's a critical failure roll, or or especially like if there was like a shock attack and someone was knocked out, or so suffers some kind of injury where they might be distracted from there. And that's kind of like the discussion about do you want your players to always roll dice when they get on their horse or do some other everyday activity like eat? Do you really want them to do that all the time and risk the dreaded critical roll, failure roll, where they fall off the horse and hit their head, or while eating they actually stick their fork in their eye or something? That's kind of one part I'm kind of hesitant about. What I really want, when the system stops working, do I want it to be all just on just critical rolls and such? That might be up to the call of the GM. As for the other parts of the procedure for drifting, there's the first step is that kind of a handshake, kind of like what you normally do with computer modems when you're establishing a connection. What I really want players to always roll for that, that's kind of questionable, especially when you think, pilots have been working together for a while. Would they really need to do a role like that unless they are new to each other or whatever? That's it was kind of a discussion on the our Tarsarian Discord server the last week, or no, it was a couple of weeks ago, that a lot of these details came up. So, but that's kind of food for thought for today. Again, I'm going to try to be more regular on these podcasts, and if anybody has any questions, suggestions, or anything, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.